Hello, I'm Ollie and this is Criminally, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, who knows, it's another potluck episode of What Lurks on My Kindle. So this slot in my schedule is normally reserved for my library tour videos, of which there are still many more to come. But unfortunately the attic's so full of crap because we've been redecorating the bedroom that I can't really get to my boxes of books. So I'm doing these Kindle videos instead, which I actually think are quite good fun. So if you've not watched one before, the format is I've got my iPad here with the Kindle app open. I will scroll through the books and stop at random. And then talk about whatever book comes up. The majority of the books I have on my Kindle I haven't read. So I've got, I think, about 2,000 books, and I think I've read about 20% of them. So yeah, in the last episode, there were a large number of books came up randomly that I had read. So we'll see if we have similar luck this time. But yeah, I will try and do 10 books. I'm very bad at keeping count in these videos, but we'll see if I manage to successfully count and just do 10. So anyway, here we go. Okay, book one. Oh, okay, here's one that I have read. It is, let me get the cover image up. Hollywood Wives by Jackie Collins. So this was really fun. I read this, I can't remember why, I can't remember if I read it for a specific reason or just because I thought it would be fun, but I read it towards the end of last year. And it's exactly what you'd expect. Well, actually, it's not quite exactly what you expect it to be. It's kind of exactly what you expect it to be. 50% of it is, in that it's about women in Hollywood, having lots of sex, going to parties, having lunch, drinking champagne and, eating posh food and stuff like that, and being devious. So it's about, women who are connected to the movie industry in some way. So some of them are film stars, some of them are, married to producers and things like that. But then there's also this weird kind of slasher movie plot going on throughout the book as well. And it opens with a really gruesome murder scene. And then also it's got such a laundry list of kinky sex acts that you just wouldn't believe it if you wrote them all down, all the different ways that people have sex in this book. It would be a long list, and indeed there's even a scene which ends up almost being a plot point where two people are having sex and something happens which means they have to go to hospital. But it's just a blast. It's it's not the best book in the world, but it's definitely very entertaining. Okay, that was book one. Okay, book two then is another book I've read, and one that actually I've reviewed on the channel. So this is, sorry, let me get to the cover. Oh. I'll tell you what it is. While I'm loading the cover, I'll tell you what it is. It's Get Carter by Ted Lewis, which is just a fantastic book. So, like I say, I have done a review of it on the channel, but it is a, I can't remember if it was late 60s or early 70s crime novel about this guy Carter, who is like a hard man in London who works for some gangsters, who goes back up north to where he was born because his brothers died in a car accident. And Carter suspects that there is foul play at work, and the book is about him investigating that and getting his revenge on the people who were responsible for his brother's death. It's just brilliant. It's really gritty. It's got a wonderful kind of noirish feel to it, but with a very, very north of England vibe as well. So very different from most noir, which tends to be set in America. Yeah, just a really, really good book. Thoroughly recommended. Okay, that was book two. Let's do book three. I'll go a bit further this time. Another book I've read. So this is a short story, horror short story, Secret Santa by Edward Lorn, which was, as you can guess, was a kind of Christmas special that Edward Lorn did, which I think he released free to people as a Christmas present a couple of years ago. So this is an entertaining short horror story. I don't think I've read any of his novels or any of his longer fiction, but I really enjoyed this one. I won't go too much into detail because it's only short and I would inevitably spoil it. But it's a good, creepy Santa story. Okay, that was book 3. Let's do book 4, which is going to be, golly, another book I've read. Maybe I think I need to scroll further because maybe I'm just getting more recent books. So, Helter Skelter, the story of the Manson murders by Vincent Bugliosi, who was like the prosecutor. So this is really good. I mean, it's a giant of true crime fiction, a very well known book. But yeah, I thought it was fantastic. So very in depth, but very readable as well. He doesn't ever get bogged down in kind of legalese or anything like that. And he paints a very interesting picture of all of the, the key players in the Manson family. So yeah, clearly the Sharon Tate murders are a horrible crime, but equally a fascinating one, I think, for us because of the links to famous people, to Hollywood, and because Manson is such an interesting character. So yeah, a very, very good true crime book. Right, I'm going to scroll further this time, try and get something I haven't read. What was that? That was book 4, wasn't it? Okay, here's one I haven't read. So, Our Game by John LeCarre. So, I've read very little John LeCarre. I've read, what have I read? I think I might only have read The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which is terrible, isn't it? I've got tons of his books on my Kindle. I don't know how many, but probably at least 7 or 8. And I've got a couple of paperbacks as well. So he is, a very well-known writer. I talked about one of his books in my top 30 most influential books of the last 50 years video. I think he's had a huge impact on like espionage fiction and really moved it away from the Bond style, slightly silly style to something more realistic. And also I think interweaves his own political views in his books in a really interesting way as well. So a very good writer. And I really like his son, Nick Harkaway. I've read a couple of books by him as well, which were very good. Okay, that was book 5. On to book 6. I'm going to make sure I go further this time. Okay, I have got, so this is a book I have not read, albeit I've got 2 of the books in the series. The Sea Detective by Mark Douglas Home. Okay, so there are 4 books in this series. Let me show you the cover. Okay, so here is the cover. It's a Scottish crime novel. And let me read you the description for it. So I've got the second book in the series as well. Cal McGill is an Edinburgh-based oceanographer, environmentalist and one-of-a-kind investigator. Using his knowledge of the waves, ocean currents, prevailing winds, shipping records, McGill can track where objects have come from or where they've gone. So when 2 severed feet wash up miles apart on 2 different islands off the coast of Scotland, the description just stops at that point. So clearly, I guess he investigates. So yeah, that sounds quite good, doesn't it? Like I say, there's 4 books in the series. I've got the second one as well, but I quite like the idea of, I always enjoy characters who aren't detectives, but who have a profession that involves them detecting things in crime novels. So yeah, that sounds quite interesting. Right, that was book 6. Let's go on and do book 7. Okay, we have got a book I have no recollection of at all. I don't remember buying this. I don't know what it's about. It's called The Illumination of Ursula Flight, and it's by Anna Marie Crowhurst. It's got a lovely cover. So it looks like it's kind of a bit gothic-y maybe, or certainly vintage. It says a spirited funny romp, touching and vivid. Is one of the blurbs on the cover. Let me see if I can get the book details up. Okay, so I bought this in 2018 apparently, and it was one of Stylist's must-read books of 2018. So let me read you some of the blurb. It's quite a long blurb, so I won't read all of it. Born on the night of a bad luck comet, Ursula Flight has a difficult destiny written in the stars. Growing up with her family in the country, she is educated by a forward-thinking father who enables her to discover a love of reading, writing and astrology. Ursula dreams of becoming a famous playwright, but is devastated to learn she must instead fulfill her family's expectations and marry. Trapped and lost, Ursula plots her escape, but her freedom will come at a price. Okay, well that sounds not the sort of thing I normally read, but it does sound like it could be quite entertaining. It hasn't got, I have to say, a huge number of reviews on Amazon, which seems strange. It's only got 146 ratings, so I'm guessing it wasn't terribly successful, but it does look interesting. Right, what was that? That was book 7, wasn't it? So let's do book 8. I'm going to go back a bit further again this time. Not that far. Right, okay. Meg Origins by Steve Alten. So obviously these are quite well known now, the Meg books, because of the movie that came out with, who was in it? The English guy, whose name I can't remember now. Yeah, with him in it anyway, which was quite fun. We saw that at the cinema as like a summer blockbuster. And I've read at least one of the Meg books, but I can't remember which one it was. I've got a few of them on my Kindle. So yeah, I will work through those at some point, because who doesn't love giant killer shark books? Yeah, that's probably all I need to say about that one. So what was that? That was book 8. Okay, book 9 is Stalingrad by Anthony Beevor. So I have not read this. It is a huge, let's see if it says how long it is. It's a huge tome of, oh, actually not too bad, actually, 575 pages. So a non-fiction book about the Battle of Stalingrad in the Second World War. Hold on, let me get the cover up for you. So I've not read a great deal of military history. I do find it quite intriguing, and I've got a few books like this, including I think some other books by him, that I've picked up in Kindle deals. So maybe I'll get to this at some point. My son is very interested in the history of the 20th century and kind of the Second World War, and particularly the history of Russia in the 20th century. So maybe I should read this, and then I can talk a bit more intelligently to him about that. Right, on to book 9 then. And that is, so this is interesting. So this is Starvaker by Andrew Michael Hurley, which is a book that I was considering for Horror Mayhem, which is a horror event coming in May, which I'm going to be one of the hosts of. So I think this is a book I will read for that. I read his book, The Loney, a few years ago, and I thought it was brilliant. So it's kind of I guess you'd call it literary horror fiction. And I shouldn't use that term after my video about the difference between literature and popular fiction, should I? But yeah, it's kind of a horror novel that was very critically lauded, and it's really good. It's really creepy, and it's got a wonderful sense of place. So I think that one is kind of set on like the marshes in East Anglia or something like that, and it just the whole book just feels cold and damp and bleak. So yeah, he's a really good writer, and I'm looking forward to reading this one. Okay. Right, the final book for today anyway is another one I've read. Okay, this was good, so it's worth talking about. It's Born Fighter by Ruqsana Begum, who is a, let me show you the cover. So she's like a mixed martial artist, but she's a British Muslim woman. And this is a really interesting book. Let me read you the blurb for it, because I can't remember all the details of her successes in the world of sports. So ever since she went to school in Bethnal Green, part of a large local Bangladeshi community, Ruqsana Begum stood apart from her friends because she was so keen on sport. At home she wore the clothes her mother wanted her to wear and behaved like a dutiful Muslim daughter, but at heart she wanted something different. And when she went to college and saw an advert for a Muay Thai club, she knew what that could be. But she also knew that her parents would never allow her to fight, even if they could have afforded the costs. So she fought in secret and soon discovered that she was a natural. But when her parents arranged her marriage, her new world collapsed and she found herself unable to cope until she broke free again and worked her way to the top. So this was just a really, I don't really read, you know, sports stuff much because I'm not into sport at all. But this was a really captivating story. And, you know, she's a tremendously engaging character, and just her determination was fantastic to read. And this whole kind of clash of culture stuff that's going on in the book was brilliantly handled. So yeah, a really, really fascinating book, and some great stuff in there about, for example, you know, the uniforms or like outfits that female fighters were expected to wear, and how she, you know, kind of rallied against that to allow them to wear things that were slightly more modest, that kind of thing. A really interesting book, and yeah, she's a fantastic character to read about. So that was another random trawl through books on my Kindle. Hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I'll get back to doing library tours with real physical books soon. Maybe not next week, but maybe, we'll see. But yeah, hope everyone's safe and well. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Yeah, take care, and I will speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.